Good evening, my friends, and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph, and I am the host of this show. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So, this is our series, day number 21 of progressive rock albums from the 1980s. Basically, how this works is I'm doing 31 albums from 31 progressive rock bands that came out in the 1980s that I've never heard before. And basically they fall into one of four categories. They're bands that I've had lots of listening to with different albums throughout the years, but for some reason I never heard this particular one. They may be bands who I have some of the stuff and listened to quite a bit, but haven't listened to this album. Or they may be bands I've heard of, but never actually got around to listening to anything from them. And then the last category is bands that I've probably never heard. I didn't even know that they existed. So anyways, we're here today on day 21 to... this is going to be a tedious one. It can't be any more tedious than the listening to of it. Okay, so I want to just explain this a bit. Okay, so I was talked into buying a couple of albums by this band. For many people would know, this is Van der Graaf Generator, and this is Pawn Hearts. I have a couple of Van der Graaf Generator albums, but the vocals on this were horrible. So I vowed never to listen to this man again. But then somebody recommended this album, Amorphous Androgynous, with Peter Hammill singing. And I thought, but I bought it anyways just because the album cover is cool. And the person that recommended it, I respect it. So I bought it. At first I didn't get into it. It took a little bit of listening to acquire a taste for it. And then I liked it quite a bit. And his vocals were not too bad on this. And I think that's because more than likely they were toned down. So I thought, okay, I'll give this guy another chance. So I looked on, when I was looking through my list of progressive albums from the 1980s, I saw his name in there. More than once, a few times actually. So I said, okay, let's choose one of his albums. And I looked at the three or four. I think it was three actually. It might have been more, but it was at least three. And I looked through them all, and this one here said just him playing piano and keyboards and singing, and the songs look like they might be kind of love songish. So first of all I was wondering how progressive this would sound and whether it actually fit into this particular style here, but they said it was progressive, so I was going to give them a chance. So here's what I've discovered. This man should never sing again. That's bad, right? He's actually, the album is kind of a double-edged sword. Okay, yes, it has some progressive piano playing and some keyboards, and the lyrics are kind of thoughtful and insightful. So on that particular area, it's quite good. You know, I always say that I don't like instrumental albums, that I prefer vocals. In this case, I'm willing to make an exception. If he didn't sing on this album, it would have done much better for me. The piano was good on it. Throughout the whole album, I thought the piano was good and clear. Some of the keyboard parts and synthesizer parts were not bad at all. There's no other instrumentation on the album except for those things, but they weren't too bad. Especially liked them quite a bit on the very last track. But his vocals, you know, I found with his vocals that they ranged from, okay, I can tolerate that, up to, God, this is like listening to a chalkboard being scraped through a mic. You know, oh, terrible. Anyways, I think you kind of get the picture here. You know, as I was telling my friend, whoever these guys' parents were, they should have been blamed completely for this. Because if they had told him the truth, he might have committed suicide, but at least he wouldn't have killed all the people who listened to him. I know that's kind of harsh. Anyways, I know I'm making light and fun of something here. I just don't think he has the kind of voice that's very good at all. Like, it's just scratchy as hell and too loud most of the time. Too loud, like you're playing a quiet piano, you don't need to scream, and especially if you're screaming in a banshee voice, not good. Okay, so I'll try to be kind for the rest of the album if at all possible. I mean, he did create some decent albums in his past, but why this man has chosen to do an album of basically love songs on piano, I have no idea. Okay, so it starts out with a song called Too Many of My Yesterdays. The lyrics are good. He's talking about how he spent his whole life with too much of his time with one person and it never worked out. We can all kind of relate to that in some ways. And the piano is quite mellow, and the vocals are not too bad because he's in a low range, so he's not too bad here. So I thought, okay, it's a melancholy song, but it's pretty decent. But his voice was getting a little bit high in the middle, and so I had to nail it and give it only a 3. The next song is a little bit better, same type of thing, some keyboards, some piano, more upbeat, more up-tempo song. Of course, it's a love song, and as a love song, it's going to talk about those kind of things that aren't always too digestible by progressive rock standards, but it wasn't bad, and he kept his voice again in a mid-range, which wasn't too bad. So I gave the song a 5. Then we get to Empire of Delight. This song is a bit different from the rest of the songs, I think. Again, he kept his voice fairly mellow, fairly reasonable. Piano was nice. The song was almost Shakespearean-like in its singing. Like I almost felt like he was singing a soliloquy. That's what I felt like. But it was pretty tastefully done. A little bit subdued, but not bad. However, it still only got a 4 because I want it more. I'm looking for something more progressive. Although this wasn't bad, it wasn't too bad. Then we get to the song Silver, and that's when the wheels came off the cart. Piano opens, nice. Then some keyboards, pretty good. The piano is like really quite good on this track. But his vocals, just as his vocals got harder, they got harsher to the point where I wanted to put my hands over my ears. If it wasn't for the great piano parts, I would have given this song a lot less than the 3 I gave it. But that's I'm trying to be fair about it. So, anyways, next track beside The One You Love. Okay, the piano is very good again and quite gentle. But his vocals are again too loud, and I find when his vocals are too loud, I wouldn't want to go and say he's out of tune, but they hurt my ears. Okay, so I gave that a 3. The next one I also gave a 3. Other Old Cliches is the name of the song. Piano is excellent on this, very good. Vocals not too bad, but too loud again. Like he wasn't as screechy on this particular song, but it was just too loud. It was overpowering the piano, in my opinion. I would have rather heard just the piano. The 7th track is maybe the worst track on the album. Had a keyboard intro followed by a grand piano. At least that's what it sounds like. The vocals were way too loud. Easily the harshest song on the album. And one of the hardest songs on the album. He's really rocking with those piano and keyboards on this song. Pretty interesting sounds too. But the vocal performance was the worst on the album by far, I think. Even worse than Silver, which was pretty bad. But I gave it a 3 again because of the instrumentation was good and I liked the general direction of the song. And then we get to the final track on the album, which is Sleep Now. This was my favorite track. And I don't know if it was because it was the last track or because it was not that bad of a song. It had a synthesizer kind of opening, some nice tender kind of piano playing, like really mellow. And he kept his vocal melodies not too bad. He didn't get too out of range here. I just thought it was the best track. It was the only track on the album that I can actually say that I liked. So 1 out of 7, or 1 out of 8, sorry. So, I gave Peter Hammill another chance, and maybe I just got to find the right combination of vocal. Like, he was good on this. He was very good on this, because these guys, the music on this is really good, and I think they probably took his vocals and toned them down quite a bit. So because he has a very loud vocal range, like his voice is quite powerful, but he ain't no operatic singer. But his voice is quite powerful. If he could just tone it down a little bit, even though it's not the best sounding voice and it's kind of scratchy, it might be a little bit better. But there was enough of the louder part on this album to turn me kind of blue, and that's why I'm wearing all this blue. There you go. Okay, enough of the funnies for tonight. Day 21, progressive rock albums from the 1980s, featuring Peter Hammill, former member of Vandergraaf Generator, and I don't know, Vandergraaf I think folded, but I'm not sure. This album came out in 1986. It's called And Close as This. So I hope you like this episode. Please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. And we'll be back on day 22 with another progressive rock album from the 1980s. So take care.